Hey strategists, welcome back to the only channel dedicated to the silent power that rules the world. Most people chase after titles, status, or raw physical strength, believing that control is the key to power. But the master thinker, Niccolo Machiavelli, understood a deeper truth. True, unassailable power is forged in the mind because the moment you become impossible to control, you seize command of everything around you. Look closely at the architects of every era. The world isn't governed by the strongest fist or the kindest heart. It is ruled by the thinkers, those who visualize 10 moves on the board while the masses are still caught up in the last transaction. In the grand theater of power, brute strength will always falter, and fleeting charm will inevitably die out, yet strategy is eternal. The individuals who ascend are the ones who have deliberately programmed themselves to think differently. They do not allow themselves to be swept away by emotion or drowned in the deafening noise of the crowd. Instead, they become ruthless observers. They calculate every variable. They adapt without sentiment. And while the rest of the world descends into panic, they strike with surgical precision. Machiavelli famously declared, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." This wasn't merely a comment on speed, it was a definition of superior intelligence. It is not about possessing more knowledge, it is about acting with greater speed, perceiving with absolute clarity, and thinking with uncompromising sharpness. Because your intelligence is the only form of power that is immune, it cannot be stolen, it cannot be copied, and it cannot be destroyed. You must either consciously build this power, or you will forever remain a tool for those who did. Here is the inconvenient truth the majority will never confront. Your current mindset has likely been programmed for fragility. It is engineered to crave comfort, to retreat from pressure, and to lose itself in the swamp of distraction. You find yourself scrolling through trivial content, engaging in futile arguments, and then you wonder why you feel a persistent sense of powerlessness. The cosmos isn't conspiring against you. The simple, brutal fact is this: your mind has arrested its own evolution. But what if you could fundamentally rewire that brain? What if you could think not just faster, but 10 times faster? To interpret people's intentions as easily as reading an open book? To predict complex outcomes before they even begin to unfold? And to become so mentally fortified that all attempts at manipulation simply dissolve against your intellect? This is the goal of what I call cognitive edge conditioning. It is not a temporary burst of motivation. It is a profound, permanent mental evolution. It is a system that transforms your brain itself into a weapon, a mechanism of strategy, unbreakable discipline, and ultimate self-control. This is how you become unbreakable under crushing pressure and utterly unreadable in chaos. Because the moment your mind achieves dominance over your own emotions, you cease to be a reactor and become a ruler. This is the path to rising above fear, manipulation, and intrinsic weakness. It is achieved by mastering the single most critical battlefield, your own mind. Now, drop this affirmation in the comments. My mind is forged for war. Number 1. The sovereignty of intelligence. True dominance is not derived from overt control. It flows from profound understanding. When your mind operates at a level of sharpness that exceeds your environment, you stop having to fight for power. Instead, you begin to attract it. The intelligent individual doesn't feel the need to broadcast their strength through conflict or unnecessary noise. They allow logic and precision to deliver their message for them. Intelligence is far more than accumulated knowledge. It is foresight. It is the disciplined capacity to look past the fog of emotion, to strip away illusion, and to perceive the pure, raw structure of reality itself. When you grasp the core drivers of human thought, their predictable reactions, and their underlying motivations, you move through any social or professional landscape like a master chess player moving among pawns. While the majority exhaust their energy trying to project an image of power, the intelligent operate in silence. They quietly study, constantly adapt, and rigorously predict. They know that real power is silent. It never needs to shout. It observes with a cold, clear eye. It calculates with meticulous detail. It moves with absolute concealed intention. This is the master stroke. When you can accurately predict, you gain the ability to control outcomes without ever needing to appear in control. Machiavelli instructs us on how to maintain this intellectual superiority. There is no other way of guarding oneself against flattery than by letting men understand that to tell you the truth does not offend you. This is not just a lesson in honesty. It is a principle of intellectual immunity. The strong mind does not need or crave external validation. It demands accuracy, and that is what makes it dangerous. The intelligent mind ruthlessly detaches itself from the vulnerability of ego. It converts insults into lessons, dissects every failure for maximum data extraction, and transforms the pure force of pressure into laser-like focus. Where others crumble and shrink under criticism, the intelligent individual uses it to sharpen their very edges. Every single test, every mistake, every perceived betrayal is immediately converted into information. A new data point for the lifelong project of mastery. This is precisely why true intelligence is often feared. The manipulator can skillfully deceive raw emotion, but they cannot subvert pure reason. You can easily trick someone who feels too much, but you will never trick someone who thinks deeply and systematically. When you subject your cognition to this rigorous training, you become untouchable. Not because you have all the answers, but because nothing catches you by surprise anymore. Every single move you make becomes deliberate. Every calculated silence holds meaning. Every reaction from others becomes just another predictable data point. The intelligent move like shadows, quiet, yet absolutely decisive. They are masters of timing, perception, and applied human psychology. They can steer the direction of a conversation without having to dominate the speaking time, redirect a conflict without needing a confrontation, and gain vast influence without ever resorting to force. Intelligence creates leverage, and leverage is the truest form of freedom. When your mind understands the underlying mechanics of systems, the drivers of people, and the pull of incentives, you don't just play the game anymore. You design it. That is the moment your reality begins to bend in your favor. This is not done by manipulating others. It is done by achieving complete self-mastery. Intelligence is self-control. It is profound awareness. It is the discipline to pause when the entire world is panicking, to analyze everything when others are merely reacting, and to only act when your timing is absolutely perfect. The intelligent mind sees opportunity embedded within tension and finds a profound sense of calm existing within chaos. It never, ever allows raw emotion to take the wheel because emotion blinds. Logic sees. This is the silent reason the intelligent remain calm while everyone else is metaphorically burning. They have meticulously trained themselves to detach from the urgency of momentary feelings and to always stay connected to the gravity of long-term consequences. The fool speaks only to be heard. The intelligent speak to direct. The fool reacts reflexively to every threat. The intelligent designs the threat. When the intelligent make their move, it is never noise. It is always strategy. Internalize this truth. Every single word you speak, every choice you enact, and every emotion you permit to run free is either actively strengthening or critically weakening your cognitive power. You must protect your mind as you would a vast kingdom, for that is exactly what it is. Sharpen it daily. Challenge its limits. Feed it the friction of pressure. Observe the world not for the easy path of comfort, but for the profound insights of understanding. Because once you learn to think like absolutely no one else, you will never be treated like everyone else. Machiavelli encapsulated this with cold clarity. A man who wishes to act entirely up to his professions of virtue soon meets with what destroys him among so much that is evil. In this context, intelligence isn't about the moral imperative to be good. It is about being wise enough to survive, and more, to dominate. And those who endure the longest and rise the highest are always the ones who think the deepest. Now, drop this affirmation in the comments. My intelligence is the invisible blade. Number 2. Cognitive edge conditioning. This is the methodology, the absolute non-negotiable system that creates an unshakable cognitive advantage. This is a 6-phase mental architecture designed to sharpen your mind under the most intense pressure, to predict complex outcomes before they materialize, and to achieve dominance in any situation. By deliberately, ruthlessly training your brain, you become a faster, clearer, and utterly impossible to manipulate force, converting your raw intelligence into unstoppable power. Phase 1. Create cognitive tension. Comfort is the quiet, insidious killer of brilliance. If your goal is a mind that operates with surgical sharpness, you must actively, manually engineer pressure into the very fabric of your life. You must not stop until deep, strategic thinking becomes a reflex action rather than a comfortable place of retreat. Cognitive tension is not an aimless pursuit of suffering. It is the deliberate, strategic introduction of resistance that forces the brain to construct new, high-speed neural circuits, establish faster associations, and achieve a ruthless clarity of thought. Start by meticulously redesigning your daily environment so that it continuously demands more of you than you expect. Choose tasks that visibly strain your existing focus. Place yourself into controlled intellectual disagreement with people who are demonstrably smarter than you. Consume ideas, read concepts and doctrines that make you profoundly uncomfortable. Schedule short, intense, unbroken periods where distraction is absolutely forbidden, and the consequences of failure genuinely matter. This is not masochism, it is high-level training. The mind operates exactly like a muscle. Subject it to the stress of difficulty, and it will grow. Leave it soft, and it will atrophy. You must actively hunt for problems that possess no immediate, easy answers, and accept the necessary, temporary frustration that is the precursor to growth. Seek out conversations that expertly expose your blind spots, rather than accepting compliments that merely soothe them. Place small, calculated bets where the entire outcome hinges on the precision of your judgment. Then immediately and rigorously study what the results reveal about your current patterns of thinking. Do not permit your brain to reside in the predictable. Swap the trivial for the genuinely challenging. Change your route to work every day. Commit to learning a language with an exceptionally complex grammar structure. Force yourself to debate a core principle you don't fully agree with, or tackle complex puzzles that demand intense pattern recognition under a tight time constraint. Each intentional novelty generates cognitive micro-injuries. When these injuries are repaired, they inevitably leave behind stronger, more robust neural pathways. But tension without immediate reflection is just noise. You must convert that raw pressure into actionable insight by capturing what you learn the very moment you learn it. Journal the surprises that caught you off guard. Note the specific emotional triggers that caused a momentary lapse. Map out your recurring mistakes, and most importantly, force yourself to extract one tactical adjustment after every single test. The ultimate aim is not the spectacle of stress. It is the systematic application of repeated micro-tests that actively demand instant adaptation. Build rituals that deliberately simulate a crisis environment, ensuring your brain becomes fluent in high-stakes decision-making under genuine uncertainty. Use short bouts of cold exposure to sharpen your breath control and focus. Implement meditation to help you notice the first subtle twitch of panic so you can consciously choose your response. Use timed problem sessions to shrink the period of deliberation, and apply deliberate social challenges to practice and refine your unreadability. These are your drills. They must be non-negotiable. As you steadily increase this cognitive tension, you must monitor your limits. Growth necessitates discomfort, but it must never lead to total collapse. If your internal system starts to tip into chronic overwhelm, immediately reduce the volume and instead increase the precision. Fewer but sharper challenges will always triumph over relentless, directionless chaos. Over time, the mere capacity to sustain intense tension transforms into a strategic resource. Your mental threshold rises dramatically, and mental clarity in the face of pressure becomes an unthinking, deep-seated habit. When people around you panic, you will think. When they hesitate, you will act. That is the final leverage. In essence, you must deliberately create a life that demands exponentially more of you than you would naturally expect. Convert every instance of stress into a precise, targeted learning experience. And you must absolutely refuse the comfortable path that dulls the edge of your perception. You are not training to simply survive mediocrity. You are training to outthink it. Machiavelli instructs us, "Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times." The times are always changing, and your mind must be the first to adapt. Now, drop this affirmation in the comments. I turn blocks into steps. Phase 2. Master predictive thinking. Prediction is the fundamental currency of all power. Those rare individuals who can accurately foresee the next movements of people, the trajectory of events, and the swing of circumstances always operate above the chaos, remaining utterly untouched by it. Mastering predictive thinking requires a process far beyond simple observation. It demands the systematic cultivation of foresight that successfully converts mere possibility into a high-confidence probability. Begin by dedicating yourself to the rigorous study of patterns in human behavior. Note every repeated reaction. Recognize all habitual choices, and meticulously track the emotional triggers that reliably push decisions in predictable directions. Record these patterns with absolute neutrality, without judgment, and then begin to formulate detailed scenarios for how they might evolve under various pressures. The intelligent mind does not wait passively for events to unfold. It anticipates them, it prepares contingencies, and it positions itself strategically ahead of time. You must apply this same penetrating scrutiny to your own decision-making processes. Which of your choices repeat unconsciously? Which deeply held assumptions continually mislead you? And which impulsive behaviors betray your core logic? Predictive thinking must be as relentlessly self-directed as it is outwardly focused. You must simulate every plausible outcome internally before you ever have to encounter it externally. Imagine entire conversations before they take place. Foresee every potential objection before it is voiced, and meticulously map out your responses in advance. The brain, when trained this way, begins to reliably detect subtleties that are utterly invisible to ordinary perception. Micro-expressions, minute tonal shifts, subtle hesitations, all of these become powerful, silent revelations of hidden intent. Expand this practice beyond just people. Systems, economies, social dynamics, and even environmental shifts can all be accurately anticipated through a process of structured, detached analysis. You must learn to seek out signals where others perceive only random noise. A subtle change in a person's routine, a new tone in a business communication, or a delayed response. These are all early indicators of larger developing patterns. Maintain a meticulous ledger of consequences. Track your past successes and failures to continually refine your prediction models. Each misstep is not a permanent defeat. It is simply more data. The more rigorously you track and analyze this information, the sharper and more prescient your anticipation becomes, and the less the actions of others can effectively control you. This is strategic foresight in its purest, most devastating form. It is the profound ability to act, not because circumstances demand an immediate reaction, but because you have already flawlessly arranged the path ahead. Predictive thinking is intrinsically linked to emotional discipline. Your expectation of potential outcomes must remain ruthlessly detached from your personal desire for a specific one. You cannot effectively forecast if your perception is being distorted by the bias of fear or the pull of greed. Neutral observation is a devastating weapon. It is what allows you to maintain absolute calm while everyone else reacts impulsively to the unfolding situation. Train your mind to automatically ask, "What will happen next?" for every interaction, decision, or event. Then mentally rehearse multiple contingencies, playing out each scenario in your head. When this is done consistently, your brain begins to automatically model scenarios, weigh the subtle probabilities, and prioritize actions without any conscious taxing strain. This is how intelligence becomes truly unassailable, not through brute knowledge alone, but through a quality of foresight that effectively eliminates the possibility of surprise. By predicting the moves of your adversaries before they are even conceived, you gain absolute control of the field without ever having to exert overt force. You become the silent architect of outcomes, the unseen hand that quietly guides events, and the grand strategist who never has to scramble in mere reaction. Machiavelli warned, "Men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. All men have eyes, but few have the gift of penetration." You must possess the gift of penetration. Now, drop this affirmation in the comments. I see the next play before it's made. Phase 3. Strengthen mental agility. Mental agility is the ultimate silent weapon against stagnation and against the grip of manipulation. The mind that can bend without ever snapping will dominate any situation where the rigid thinker crumbles into uselessness. To forge this agility, you must train your thoughts to shift instantly, to abandon the safety of comfort the moment it obstructs an opportunity, and to perceive multiple viable solutions where others see nothing but impenetrable dead ends. Begin by intentionally exposing yourself to scenarios that violently force rapid evaluation. Engage with complex problems where the information is deliberately incomplete. Participate in debates where your opponent viciously challenges your most core assumptions. And embrace tasks that demand your simultaneous, focused attention on multiple variables at once. The agile mind does not desperately crave certainty. It actively thrives in the ambiguity, learning to pivot its entire strategy without the slightest hesitation. Flexibility is not indecision. It is the disciplined capacity to alter your strategy mid-flow without losing the overall coherence of your grand plan. It is the courage to discard old, comfortable patterns the moment they cease to serve your objective, and the innate ability to improvise a viable solution under the intense, immediate duress of pressure. Practice the habit of reframing every challenge from multiple, opposing perspectives. For every single obstacle, ask yourself, what is the alternative path that absolutely no one else currently sees? Build a core habit of asking radically unconventional questions. Why is this the assumed solution? What would happen if I entirely reversed the standard approach? Train your brain to hold several possible strategies in simultaneous review, meticulously weighing their specific risks and maximum potential outcomes. This ensures that when the circumstances inevitably shift, your response is immediate, precise, and maximally effective. Mental agility absolutely requires emotional fluidity. You must completely detach yourself from the emotional anchors of frustration, disappointment, or an inflexible attachment to a single plan. These are not personal failures. You must see them only as data points for necessary adjustment. People who cling rigidly to one way of thinking eventually find themselves hopelessly trapped. Those who move with the circumstance, adapting instantly to its changing flow, become truly untouchable. Another critical aspect of true agility is speed. The quicker your mind can analyze a problem, adapt your approach, and finalize a decision, the fewer openings you leave for any potential manipulator to exploit. Timed problem-solving exercises, rapid-fire scenario rehearsals, and simulated crises all serve to teach the brain to react with an optimal balance of both speed and pinpoint accuracy. Observe the innate, stubborn resistance the world has to change, and then use that very resistance to refine your own flexibility. Anticipate inevitable shifts long before they become obvious, and prepare yourself to adjust without any delay. Learn to perfectly balance untamed creativity and cold logic. The former is necessary to generate novel, unseen pathways. The latter is required to ensure those pathways are structurally viable. The agile mind is neither hopelessly rigid nor debilitatingly chaotic. It is a disciplined dancer flowing gracefully between all possible options with a calculated, intentional freedom. Every unexpected turn, every new challenge, every veiled threat becomes a powerful opportunity to practice pure flexibility, to sharpen your raw instinct, and to aggressively expand your mental range. When your fundamental thinking becomes fluid and dynamic, the attempts of others to trap, deceive, or control you are destined to fail. Why? Because you never occupy a fixed position. You are a constant, calculated variable, unpredictable, yet always precise, adaptive, yet ruthlessly intentional. Mastering mental agility fundamentally transforms your brain into a dynamic, flowing weapon capable of navigating the most intense uncertainty, complexity, and conflict with unsettling ease. Machiavelli's instruction is clear. He who is prudent and lies in wait for an enemy who is not will be victorious. Your agility is the prudence that allows you to lie in wait. Now, drop this affirmation in the comments. Pressure shapes me, never shatters me. Phase 4. Dominate through unpredictability. Predictability is an absolute vulnerability. Those who cling to routine patterns can always be anticipated, easily controlled, and eventually defeated. To dominate by weaponizing unpredictability, you must deliberately train yourself to act without any visible motive, to change your behavior in ways that actively disorient all observers, and to cultivate a powerful presence that fundamentally resists all attempts at anticipation. Begin by systematically altering your routines. Vary your daily schedule. Switch your established methods. Ruthlessly rotate your approaches. Your goal is to ensure that absolutely no one can successfully map your habits. Small, seemingly insignificant inconsistencies build a foundational layer of uncertainty around your character. This forces others to hesitate and second-guess their actions, unsure of your true next move. Extend this principle into the realm of communication. Speak selectively. Reveal your true intentions sparingly, and actively use ambiguity to create a powerful advantage. The powerful mind understands that perception is the ultimate reality. By projecting subtle uncertainty and leaving tactical gaps in understanding, you effortlessly shape how others must respond to you without ever resorting to direct confrontation. Unpredictability is not chaos. It is a highly controlled, calculated fluidity. It is the absolute capacity to pivot, to deceive, or to misdirect, all while diligently maintaining your core strategic purpose. Practice the deliberate creation of false leads in every domain: negotiations, social experiments, and casual interactions. Hint at one planned action, execute a completely different one, and be ready to adjust the plan in real time. Over a sustained period, observers will lose all trust in their own assumptions, and your actions will become autonomous from any external pressure. Integrate this with strategic visibility. Occasionally reveal a predictable behavior to lull your competitors into a sense of lazy complacency, and then shift your actions unexpectedly to exploit the new openings you've created. Timing is paramount. Unpredictability is a potent tool only when executed with absolute precision, never with randomness. Your unpredictability must reliably generate hesitation, confusion, and deep caution in others. These generated emotions grant you an unearned, critical operational advantage. Socially, you must intentionally cultivate an aura of enigma. Disclose only highly selective personal details, vary your emotional responses widely, modulate your tone and energy so expertly that your true internal state is rendered completely unreadable. This creates immense psychological leverage. Those who cannot accurately anticipate your actions are fundamentally forced into a perpetual state of reaction, rather than being allowed to seize the initiative. Dominance through unpredictability extends into your core decision-making. Actively avoid the predictable choice. Evaluate multiple, contrasting solutions and act in ways that vigorously disrupt any pre-established expectations, all without sacrificing the internal coherence of your strategy. The intelligent mind actively thrives in this space, transforming the element of surprise into a reliable, tactical instrument, and converting the raw unknown into a carefully controlled environment. When others are forced to plan based solely on their expectations, you operate on pure initiative. When they are frozen by hesitation, you act decisively. Over a sustained period, this consistent unpredictability forges an invisible shield. Manipulation fails, deception falters, and resistance diminishes. Why? Because your opponents can neither reliably calculate nor accurately anticipate your next effective action. To truly dominate, you must embrace absolute fluidity in your presence, your decisions, and your strategy. You must ensure that your movements can never be easily mirrored or fundamentally constrained. Machiavelli's lesson on this is notoriously cold. A wise ruler ought never to keep faith when by doing so it would be against his interests. This is not a call to simple dishonesty, but a command to be strategically unpredictable in your allegiances, ensuring your self-interest is always your true north. Now, drop this affirmation in the comments. My next step has no footprint. Phase 5. Harness emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the hidden engine of profound influence. While others must rely on loud force, charming rhetoric, or temporary charisma, the truly powerful silently manipulate the outcomes by expertly controlling the invisible currents beneath the surface. Harnessing this emotional intelligence begins with an acute self-awareness. You must recognize your own impulses the very moment before they manifest. Detect the first subtle flicker of fear, frustration, or desire, and immediately transform these raw feelings into strategic signals, rather than allowing them to become reactive forces. Observation of others is equally critical and non-negotiable. Subtle shifts in their posture, their tone, their facial expressions, and their timing all reveal underlying intentions, critical weaknesses, and untapped opportunities. By reading the emotions of others as clearly as you read cold data points, you gain an unmatched predictive advantage, understanding motivations that remain completely invisible to ordinary perception. Emotional mastery is not about suppressing your feeling. It is about precisely calibrating it. You must project confidence when you are internally unsure, project warmth when you are purely strategic, project detachment when you are observing, and project carefully controlled intensity when influence is the paramount requirement. The intelligent mind ruthlessly leverages mood to directly shape decisions. It knows that human beings rarely act solely on pure logic, and that perception will almost always outweigh reality. Train yourself to influence others without any visible, overt effort. A precise nod, a well-timed extended pause, or a subtle facial change can instantly redirect a choice, control rising tension, or gently disarm resistance. Simultaneously, you must relentlessly fortify your own emotional resilience. The stronger your internal regulation, the less the provocations of others can ever dictate your behavior. Practice deliberate exposure to discomfort, challenging conversations, confrontational debates, and high-pressure social environments, all to refine your absolute capacity to respond strategically rather than to react impulsively. The more attuned you become to these signals, the more invisible your manipulation becomes. This is because influence is at its strongest when it is perceived as utterly organic by those who are affected by it. Emotional intelligence also enables the agile balance between aggressive action and patient waiting. Knowing precisely when to push forward, when to strategically retreat, when to listen intently, and when to speak with finality creates layered, unseen advantages over your competitors. By mastering these psychological dynamics, you convert subtle human behaviors into powerful levers, orchestrating interactions without ever resorting to obvious dominance. The intelligent mind flawlessly integrates meticulous emotional observation with a high-level predictive strategy. Every emotional signal is instantaneously interpreted for its potential impact on the overall outcome, and every single response is carefully crafted to maximize your long-term advantage. Emotional intelligence shields your mind from deception, amplifies your natural leadership presence, and transforms interpersonal friction into powerful opportunities for control. By perfectly combining penetrating insight into others with an absolute control over the self, you operate in a domain where manipulation cannot possibly reach you, and where influence flows naturally from flawless perception and execution. Those rare individuals who master this domain dictate entire environments without needing force, navigate conflict without friction, and inevitably emerge in command without ever revealing the true extent of their control. Machiavelli's timeless conclusion: he who becomes master of himself will be master of others. Now, drop this affirmation in the comments. I stay in charge. Phase 6, the 48-hour mastermind rule. The first 5 phases build the system. This 6th phase is the hard lock feedback loop that ensures the system grows, adapts, and compounds its power instead of stalling. After every major operation, decision, or high-stakes interaction, you must consciously enforce the 48-hour mastermind rule. This is a non-negotiable period of 2 full sleep cycles before you finalize your next major move. The strategic world rewards speed, but only if that speed is built on deep, reflective analysis. Rushing to the next play based on the raw emotions of the last one is the definition of impulsive weakness. The 48-hour window is dedicated to the ultimate task: extraction, repricing, and scripting. Extract data. Immediately after the event, document everything. Note not just what happened, but how you felt, why they reacted, and which of your predictive models failed. You must rigorously remove the ego from the outcome and treat the event as pure, clean data. Reprice variables. Re-examine every assumption you made. Did you overestimate their weakness? Did you underestimate the market's volatility? Reprice the emotional, financial, and relational variables based on the new, hard-won information. This is where you adjust your risk profile and refine your predictive algorithms. Script upgraded plays. Finally, using the repriced data, you script the next 1 to 3 operational plays. These are not reactive moves. They are moves that are fortified against the weaknesses revealed in the last cycle. The goal is to ensure that the next sequence is geometrically superior to the last. This deliberate delay forces your subconscious mind to process the complexity, strip away the emotion of the moment, and synthesize a more intelligent, objective strategy. You are effectively using the deepest levels of your brain to run cold, non-sentimental simulations. The field is full of thinkers who win a battle and rest on their laurels, or lose a battle and immediately rush into revenge. The apex thinker knows that true power is found in the disciplined pause. By sleeping twice before committing to the next move, you ensure that every subsequent action is informed by perfect, objective hindsight, rather than flawed, adrenaline-fueled instinct. This phase is how the cognitive gap widens with every cycle. The field plays a simple game of linear moves. You play a compounding game of perpetual strategic upgrade. Now, drop this affirmation in the comments. I stay in charge. Number 3. Becoming the apex thinker. Becoming the apex thinker is not a temporary title. It is a permanent state of mental supremacy. It is a level of cognition where the mind governs every choice, every perception, and every single outcome. This is the ultimate stage where all reaction completely ceases, and only pure, flawless calculation dominates your every move. Chaos is no longer an obstacle. It becomes a powerful ally. Complexity ceases to be confusing. It becomes a private playground. And pressure is no longer a source of panic. It becomes a tool for refinement. The apex thinker observes without any emotional attachment, predicts without a flicker of hesitation, and moves through the world without ever revealing their true intention. Ordinary people are destined to respond to events. They scramble, they panic, and they negotiate from a position of absolute weakness. The apex thinker actively designs the circumstances. They bend probability to their advantage and meticulously shape their environments so that all outcomes align perfectly with their deep strategy, rather than being left to the mercy of chance. To finally reach this transcendent state, you must flawlessly integrate all the prior disciplines: cognitive tension, predictive mastery, mental agility, strategic unpredictability, and emotional intelligence. Each element compounds upon the last, creating a mind that sees farther, calculates faster, and adapts with a seemingly effortless grace. Decision-making becomes instantaneous because anticipation and strategy have been completely internalized. All hesitation is eliminated because your foresight has already covered every plausible scenario. Social interactions, which once might have been a source of stress, are now simply instruments of influence. Subtle gestures, carefully placed words, and a finely calibrated presence effortlessly guide others toward decisions they genuinely believe are their own, while your core intentions remain unreadable and utterly untouchable. The apex thinker thrives under extreme scrutiny and immense adversity, using the very pressure as fuel for focus rather than allowing it to become a distraction. Fear, envy, and all attempts at manipulation lose all power. Why? Because your mind has evolved far beyond external control, drawing its immense strength from disciplined cognition rather than being dictated by circumstance. Information is instantaneously converted into leverage. Raw knowledge is transformed into action with surgical precision. When faced with crushing complexity, the apex thinker does not search for the fantasy of certainty. Instead, they immediately construct viable pathways through the ambiguity, meticulously mapping multiple potential futures simultaneously, and choosing the single optimal route with cold clarity and supreme confidence. Your competitors and adversaries will undoubtedly perceive a dangerous intelligence, but they will never be able to measure its full scope. Their desperate attempts to deceive or trap you will fail because the apex thinker is always, without exception, several steps ahead. At this unmatched level, the mind is no longer merely strategic or reactive. It is an autonomous, self-sustaining engine of pure insight, awareness, and relentless power. Every decision you make is a reflection of perfect understanding. Every pause demonstrates calculated patience, and every action projects an unshakable authority without any need for exposure. To achieve this state, you must continually refine your mental discipline. You must aggressively embrace challenges that stretch your absolute capacity. And you must apply these cognitive practices consistently until strategic thinking becomes truly instinctive, yet always deliberately controlled. Machiavelli's final word of advice: it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. In this context, that fear is not brutality. It is the quiet, chilling recognition of your superior intellect and your terrifying unpredictability. The world will not stop and wait for your hesitation, and neither will the fleeting opportunity you crave. Knowledge without immediate action is merely a self-imposed cage, and intelligence that is not ruthlessly applied is simply wasted potential. This is your single definitive moment to step out of the comforting darkness and ruthlessly claim the mental power that forever separates the ordinary from the untouchable. The practices you have learned, cognitive edge conditioning, predictive mastery, mental agility, strategic unpredictability, and emotional control, are not vague theories. They are the essential tools for dominance. They are the instruments that transform your mind into a force that cannot be bent, manipulated, or successfully deceived. The immediate challenge is simple yet brutal in its execution. Pick one step. Apply it relentlessly for 7 consecutive days. Then observe with cold neutrality how your perception, your response, and your influence violently evolve. Push the boundaries that once felt safe. Embrace the resistance that once felt deeply uncomfortable. Force your brain to adapt, because all true growth demands tension, and clarity only emerges under the immense force of pressure. When you act with this level of deliberation, you will begin to outthink others in ways they cannot even detect. You will anticipate their every move before it even occurs, and you will shape outcomes without ever needing to exhibit apparent effort. Every single decision will become strategic. Every interaction will be an opportunity, and every obstacle will become a vital lesson that further fortifies your mind. But this requires more than just a fleeting commitment. It demands absolute discipline. Excuses, distractions, and fear are the permanent enemies of superior intelligence. Remove them ruthlessly. Time wasted is leverage permanently surrendered. Surround yourself exclusively with stimuli that challenge, environments that test, and situations that stretch your cognition far beyond its habitual limits. Train your focus like a targeted weapon. Observe every instance of human behavior with clinical scrutiny. Test your core assumptions continuously. Measure every outcome and relentlessly refine your methods. The process is iterative, and mastery is gradual. But with each calculated step, your mind will compound its power until it becomes your greatest, unassailable advantage. Remember this final truth. Power that is never exercised remains powerless, and intelligence that is not strategically applied is utterly invisible. Commit to the action, not the mere intention. Take everything you have learned and weaponize it in your everyday life, in negotiations, in social strategy, in decision-making, and most critically, in the moments of stress where others inevitably falter. When your thoughts are sharper than any manipulation, faster than any fear, and clearer than any confusion. No one will ever be able to control you again. This is your moment to become truly untouchable.